Hello and welcome to our Wellness Matters talk this evening, body positivity or body neutrality. So happy to have you here. My name is Nicole Imgrund, and this talk is part of a series of webinars that we've been hosting for a long time, about 9 years now. We've been doing them online for a few years, and so we've got about 60 or 70 of them on our website. So along with this webinar later, you'll be able to see lots of past webinars that we've done. I also want to let you know about some upcoming events that you're also welcome to attend. A few of them are the final webinar series for this spring. We have Fostering Self-Compassion coming up in April yet. And then in May, we have Self-Care for Care Partners, taking care of your own needs while you care for another. And then in June, we finish up with Know Thyself, Personality, and Happiness. And we're putting together already our series for next fall, and so we'll post them on the website soon. But I also would love to take the opportunity to share with you tonight about another event that River's Edge is hosting. I'll put up a poster here. It's called Celebrating Resilience. It's in October, but we're starting to spread the word about it, and tickets are for sale already now too. It's at the Arden, and it is a fundraiser for the St. Albert Food Bank. If you don't know the Haddad family story, there's a wonderful film called Peace by Chocolate and a book by the same name that Tarek Haddad has written. Tarek is going to speak to us that day about his family's incredible story of coming from Syria to Canada and rebuilding their family's chocolate factory in the Maritimes. He's been in the news quite a bit lately, actually, in the last couple of weeks. You may have seen that one of his chocolate bars was the gift to President Biden when he came to Canada. So there was some fun media around that. Also at that event with Tarek, of course, we'll have chocolate samples and he's going to sign his book, but also award-winning Indigenous classical musician Jessica McMahon is going to be playing with us with some other musicians as well. And one last announcement is that in May, I think the 24th, we have kind of a pre-event where we're going to be talking about resilience. What is it? How to develop it in your life. And if you want to watch the movie or read the book ahead of time, we're going to tie it in to the Haddad family story a bit as well. And we're going to raffle off a couple of sets of tickets to the event that day. So that's kind of all for announcements today. I do want to introduce to you now our speaker, who is Nicole Wheaton. Nicole is a student completing her Master of Counseling degree through Athabasca University, and she is very close to being done. Just a few weeks, I think, right, Nicole? Yeah.
Oh, close, yeah.
Yeah. And she's been preparing a talk and finishing up her final assignments. So I'm especially grateful she's here today. She's one of the practicum students at River's Edge Counseling. And I'm also pleased to share she's going to stay on with our team and be a provisional psychologist in the fall here. Her previous work experiences, she worked for 8 years in the field of social work, working with high-risk youth and families from all walks of life. So she comes into the counseling profession already with some wonderful experience out in the field. As a practicum student and ongoing at River's Edge, she's working with children, teens, and adults. When working with clients, Nicole places a large emphasis on the importance of establishing a therapeutic relationship that's collaborative, accepting, and authentic by honoring the unique life experiences that each client brings into sessions. She practices from a client-centered, holistic perspective and truly believes that the client is the expert in their own life. She sees her role as to support, empower, and provide clients with a safe space to grow. Nicole provides a strength-based, person-first, and trauma-informed lens when working with clients. She has a passion for empowering people to achieve their fullest potential and believes that people are intrinsically motivated towards bettering themselves. Outside of the office, you can find Nicole hiking, dancing, and taking her dog Lacey for walks around the city. Thank you for being with us today, Nicole. And I'm going to turn my camera off, but I'm going to keep my eye on the chat. So let me know if anything technical I can help with. Nicole says her talk will take most of the hour, but we can stay for a few minutes afterwards to answer some questions if you have them. So just put them in the chat or the Q&A, and we'll address the questions, send you some resources if that will help afterwards. And Nicole will post her slideshow that has her resources as well with the video afterwards. So you don't have to scramble to keep notes or anything today. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Thank you. Thanks for the introduction. I'm going to share my screen here. Okay. Hi, everyone. Welcome to my talk on body positivity and body neutrality. Thank you all for being here with me this evening. I became very interested in this topic during my first 2 years of my graduate degree, as body size and weight were not discussed. We discussed gender, race, ethnicity, socioeconomic status, or how much money you make, privileges, marginalization, but we did not discuss how individuals in larger bodies experience life. Additionally, we did not discuss how people in general are affected by negative views of their bodies. I then became passionate about spreading awareness of weight stigma, body neutrality, and the health at every size movement. I hope you leave today with some resources, some learnings, and maybe some new perspectives. There won't be a break built into this talk, but as Nicole said previously, the talks are recorded. So if you have to use the washroom or need to grab a snack in the middle, know that you can watch parts that you've missed later on. Additionally, this talk includes some discussions of eating disorders. If at any point you feel triggered or uncomfortable, please feel free to take a break or mute and take care of yourself. So I want to preface that this talk has more of a focus on women and women identifying individuals than men or men identifying individuals, but there's still a lot of helpful resources and discussions within this talk that support all bodies. I'm simply using examples with women and women identifying individuals solely because there's more research done for women. This is something that I believe needs to be looked into more because, as I said, this talk is for all bodies, and men experience weight stigma, poor body image, and eating disorders as well. I also want to acknowledge that I am an individual in a smaller body. Speaking of experiences of individuals in larger bodies, I recognize my privilege in this and took from resources and literature that were written by individuals in larger bodies. So what we're going to cover today is the importance of this talk, our societal beauty standards today, the body positivity movement, the body neutrality movement, the integration of both into our lives, and then we're going to do an activity, and then I'll cover some resources as well. So weight stigma can take on many forms and has many names within today's society. You may have heard terms such as fat phobia, weightism, and fat shaming used in social media, in the news, or in your day-to-day conversations. Weight stigma refers to the negative attitudes and beliefs related to weight of individuals and can be expressed as stereotypes, negative emotions, and discriminatory behaviors. Weight bias appears to be one of the last socially acceptable forms of discrimination, despite it being comparable to forms of discrimination related to race, gender, and age. In contrast to more widely recognized forms of discrimination that have legal sanctions in place to protect those individuals, there are no federal laws to protect individuals from weight-based discrimination. Weight stigma is founded by a weight-centric view. A weight-centric view is one that assumes higher BMIs cause poor health, that weight loss will improve health among individuals in larger bodies, and that larger bodies and heavier weight is attributable to poor health habits that individuals can control. So let's talk about BMI. BMI means body mass index. It takes our height and weight and places us in a category that determines our health based on our fatness. You might have seen this graph at your local doctor's office. It is frankly an outdated system that was invented over 200 years ago and does not reflect our current population. It also does not reflect health. We know that just because we have a larger body does not mean we are unhealthy. With that being said, it is always important for all of us to go get our yearly checkups with our doctors. So what are some health consequences of weight stigma? Health consequences for individuals in larger bodies due to weight stigma include increased stress, decreased motivation to engage in physical activity, increased binge eating behavior, anxiety, and depression. Because of the harmful implications of weight stigma for weight-related behaviors, research has begun to examine obesity as a potential outcome of that stigma. Stress effects from weight bias can lead to a greater risk of inflammation and chronic disease. And researchers have noted that consequences of experiencing weight bias may be more harmful to one's health than being overweight. Additionally, people in larger bodies face oppression. Weight bias is a social justice issue because individuals in larger bodies face oppression and discrimination in many aspects of their lives due to being deemed lazy or stupid, as well as having a moral failing solely based on their body size. Individuals with larger bodies experience unequal distribution of access to quality healthcare, fewer opportunities and more barriers in education, fewer opportunities for success in the workplace, lower wages, and greater consequences in interpersonal relationships. Factors like socioeconomic status, neighborhood environment, race and ethnicity, gender, and level of education influence differences in weight. So for most individuals, genetic, metabolic, and ecological factors have more impact than personal lifestyle choices on body weight. So some of the dangers of the misinformation that's out there is that dieting and weight loss are seen as the solution to fat, despite the fact that dieting is ineffective in sustaining weight loss and leads to negative physical health consequences, such as that higher all-case mortality risk and compromised psychological well-being. So there was a study done that looked at 29 studies on structured weight loss programs. They found that participants regained 77% of their initial weight loss after 5 years. It's also worth noting that 90% of diets fail, which is wild. I don't know about you, but diets are promoted very heavily. This does not mean that we cannot be successful in eating healthier. It just means that diets such as Atkins, keto, cleanses, detoxes, intermittent fasting do not support long-term weight loss and may even be harmful to us. So again, why is this talk important? Well, we all have a body and we all have ways that we perceive that body. Positive body image is related to satisfaction and acceptance of our bodies and can lead to better outcomes for our physical and mental health. Negative body image refers to a person's subjective perception of their body, which may differ from how they realistically look. So the effects of negative body image include low self-esteem, unhealthy self-talk, increased risk of mental health concerns, increased risk of eating disorders, increased risk of body dysmorphic disorder, increased risk of self-harm, and suicidal thoughts. So I'm going to play a video that shows how girls ages 6 to 18 discuss their body images in today's society.
Among my friends, the biggest insecurity is probably like what their body looks like. Not so much their face, but what their body is. Like they always complain like, oh, I'm too chubby, or like, oh, I look like this.
I have struggled with my body. Yeah, I feel sometimes really insecure in my own skin about it. My legs, for instance, there's that whole entire trend in the media about the thigh gap. I don't have that, that makes me not normal, that makes me not beautiful. I think I've gotten to the point where I accept that. I don't know, I still kind of struggle with that.
I have this friend who's super skinny and because she's always dancing, and I feel I wish that my mom says I'm skinny or something, but not all the time that makes you really think that you're actually skinny because it's from your mom or your dad, and they just tell you the best things about you. Maybe it's true, maybe it's not. And so I wear black leggings because I feel they make me look small or skinny.
People used to call me fat all the time, and it would really bring me down.
Especially within my friend group at school, all the girls are so skinny, like it's crazy. I don't think I'm large or anything like that, but I'm definitely not as skinny as all my friends. And I used to really struggle with that, especially in the beginning of the years of high school.
I just want to kind of fit in the best that I can.
Sometimes my height comes into being insecure because I'm so much taller than most of my friends. I was by far the tallest girl, always. And up until about literally senior year of high school this year, I was taller than a lot of the boys in my class. I hated it. It drove me crazy. I would come back from camp even, and my mom would always say to me oh, you have the tall girl slouch. You have to stand up more, because I'd literally slouch. So I was shorter.
They would say all sorts of things to me, and it was really hurtful, but I just brushed it off. It's fine.
The other day, this girl I know posted on her Finsta saying people that don't look good in bikinis shouldn't go out in public in bikinis, and it started this whole big thing, and it hurt a lot of my own friends' feelings.
The other day, actually, I saw a comment on one of my really good friends. It was saying, "You're so fat, you need to lose weight."
When I was in middle school, they had Decade Day. I dressed as Madonna, and the kid in my grade came up to me and he goes, "Who are you supposed to be?" I'm like, I'm Madonna. And he goes, "Isn't Madonna supposed to be skinny?" What do you even say to that?
In 8th grade, I didn't necessarily struggle with an eating disorder, but I definitely went through periods of time where I would be fasting.
Lately, there are a lot of people out there who advertise having a larger butt or larger breasts and then a tiny skinny waist.
I know a term nowadays is slim thick, so even if some parts of you are slim, other parts of you have to be full, and it has to be a good balance in everything in your face. Everything has to be proportional.
Honestly, I just don't really feel comfortable in my own skin sometimes. I just don't look in the mirror often and just call it a day. I just don't feel comfortable about my height, how my face structure is, sometimes the nose. I don't know. I just avoid looking in the mirror because if I do, then I'll just think of how I want to be. But if I don't, I just think, hey, this is how I am. Let's deal with it.
I would just say find something that you love on your body. You have to love something.
I like about my body is that I have good muscles in my leg from doing all that flipping and cartwheel and handstands.
I have strong arms and legs for gymnastics.
My body's strong. I could almost do a split.
I really like my eyes. I think they're really big and nice. I have green eyes, I like them.
My eyes.
My eyes.
I like how everything looks and how everything is on the inside also.
I like my skin color because it's different than most people, and it's just unique about me.
Sometimes I look into the mirror and I'm like, I'm so beautiful, and that makes me feel better.
It's always put into people's head that you have to wear a two-piece when you go to the beach, or if you're fat, then you wear a one-piece. That's totally not true. I'm not the smallest person, I'm not the biggest person, but I do have curves and I do have parts of my body that I'm not ashamed of. So I do wear a two-piece. And if people don't like it, I don't care. You can look away. I'm sorry. I'm confident in my body. And if you don't like that, then there's maybe something that you're not confident about your own body.
If girls think that there's only one standard of beauty, then they'll feel left out if people like them are included in that dialogue. So if there's more representation, then you won't feel that need to have to change yourself in order to conform to society's beauty standards. So I feel like being able to be more inclusive will really mend that gap.
When people watch this video, they might think to themselves, I am empowered. You know what? I am pretty. I am who I am.
Among my
So I always find it interesting at that video that the children that are 6 and 7 talk about what their bodies can do and their strength. And then the girls that are older talk about how their body looks. So I wanted to read this post from a social media personality, Sarah Nicole Landry. She has a podcast called the Papaya Podcast, where she discusses diet culture, inclusivity, body positivity, and body neutrality. I felt this excerpt depicts how she had fought to live in a smaller body because of society standards, and how she's on a path of acceptance and praising her body for what it can do, create life, rather than what it looks like. So healing doesn't always make sense. It's hard to fight for yourself when you feel like you are fighting against yourself. It's really bizarre to look back at things that felt the most important, obsessively so. Like that one person you felt you couldn't breathe without, that habit you felt you could never break, the fear you thought you'd never overcome. And I'm one of those people who never deletes photos. So when I scroll back, it's a telling story to see what was important to me before, obsessively so. Daily mirror selfies and photos of this scale, documenting how safe I was in my thinness. Reality being I was documenting how terrified I was of fatness, food, being bigger than any one of my friends. I existed in a larger body my whole life. I knew how that felt. I knew how people treated you, how hard it was to find clothes. Being the biggest friend in the group, I didn't want that. I wanted it gone. I saw the issue as me, not what made me feel that way in the first place. So my self-love was in erasing that part of myself, no matter what it took. But don't worry, it wasn't a problem. It was a health journey. I would lie again. Coming out of that with new truths was hard. Y'all, it was so hard. It still is. It's truly a big part of why I didn't want a baby. I knew it meant growth, change, discomfort, trusting my body for real, and living those new truths fully. We aren't usually rewarded for growing our bodies, but right now I feel like I get to be. All that healing right now, it's making sense. I got to fight for myself, and now my body fights for me too, obsessively so. So weight stigma and body image are closely tied to body and beauty standards within our society. For men, the ideal body involves muscles, six-pack abs, being lean, but also showing that they are physically strong. For women, the ideal body involves a flat stomach, big bum, lean-toned muscles, and small arms. It's all based on aesthetics, on how we look. Beauty standards are part of a social construct, so an idea that has been created and agreed upon by people in a society. Beauty standards can be seen through the years as fads, which is kind of alarming that our body types are used as trends. It's also very harmful. In our society today, we have social media to thank for this. There's an increase in body pressure due to social media. We know that apps such as Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook show a highlight reel of people's lives. We also need to remember that most of what we see is not realistic. We see touch-ups, photoshopping, and apps used like Facetune to alter people's appearances. I'm going to show a short clip of how women's bodies have been turned into trends over the years.
What I would look like if I had the perfect body throughout history. In the 2020s, Instagram booty models were invented and everybody followed. But just a decade before, thigh gaps were super in. I mean, why would you want your thighs to touch? In the 2000s, who can forget the Victoria's Secret angel? What started as a male fantasy ended up becoming the beauty standard. In the 90s, emaciated was in. They called it heroin chic. In the 50s, we were introduced to the hourglass figure. Soft and voluptuous with a Coke bottle body was in. But in the roaring 20s, you had to look like a little boy. No boobs and no hips. Then rewind to the Italian Renaissance, where having a full figure was a sign of being well-fed and being wealthy. So what's in store this year? How about we stop treating our bodies like a fast fashion trend?
So along came the body positivity movement. You define beauty yourself. You are more than a number on a scale. Love yourself the way you are. These are all affirmations that come from the body positivity movement. Body positivity refers to having a positive view of your physical body, regardless of its shape, size, or other appearance-related attributes. It involves loving your body for what it is, even if it isn't perfect according to society's standards. The movement originated in the 1960s as a form of anti-fatness activism. Its goal was to break the link existing between weight and personal worth, reinforcing that everyone deserves dignity, respect, and fair treatment, regardless of body shape and size. Alongside activism among ethnic minority women, these groups protested against structural biases and discrimination, especially from the fashion and beauty industries that profited from making people and communities feel inadequate. It worked towards change within schools, places of employment, and in advertising. It also worked to change negative patterns of thought within the medical community, challenging the notion that a person's weight is inherently tied to their health or that it is a sign of poor hygiene or noncompliance. The movement became more popular due to social media. Popular social media accounts challenged those narrowly defined societal standards of appearance and beauty. The movement went more mainstream when companies like Dove had those real beauty campaigns, and other companies promised to show a more diverse array of bodies in their campaigns. Its aim to promote acceptance and appreciation of a diversity of body types and sizes might explain why it had such a broad appeal. And there's evidence that such messaging can have a positive impact. So studies show that women exposed to social media accounts and content about body positivity have better mood, as well as greater body satisfaction and emotional well-being. An example of practicing body positivity is to look in the mirror and say out loud all the things you like about your body. So I love my arms, they look amazing. I love my thighs, they're sexy. I love my stomach, it is beautiful. Body positivity is linked to increased self-esteem, improved mental and physical health, increased confidence, improved performance at school, at work, and improved outcomes for physical health, such as running faster and lifting heavier weights. But despite the positive effect body positivity can have, more recently, some have voiced concerns. So they're worried that the movement itself is exclusionary, that it may actually do more harm than good. For example, the singer Lizzo says that the movement has been co-opted by all bodies and has become about celebrating medium and small bodies and people who occasionally get roles. Others feel that the movement continues to exclude marginalized bodies, with the most influential body positive accounts and posts typically showing conventionally attractive women. Out of almost 250 body positivity posts on Instagram, 67% of posts featured white women, with men and ethnic minority women seriously being underrepresented. Others have said that the emphasis on loving your looks actually reinforces society's preoccupation with appearance over other attributes. One study found that women who watched a lifestyle television program aimed at promoting body positivity, they experienced similar increases in anxiety about their body and dissatisfaction compared to women who watched a program about fashion models. Such body positivity content may have a negative impact on viewers because it does little to challenge that underlying idea that people are valued primarily for their appearance. Despite its positive spin, the movement still encourages people to work on their body and engage in beauty practices. And if you fail to be body positive, it's you that's at fault. So the movement ignores the structural reasons that led to negative body image, such as gendered inequalities and systems of oppression. Instead, the messaging now shifts the focus onto individuals and their ability to be happy in their body. Some even feel the current movement pushes a form of toxic positivity. So the expectation that we should always be positive no matter what, and that we should silence negative emotions in ourselves and others. Much of the current movement's messaging emphasizes that people should show confidence and acceptance in their body. The end result is that those who fail to achieve body confidence end up feeling like they failed themselves. Constantly loving your body, no matter what, can feel impossible at the best of times. One group of researchers exposed women to this kind of toxic body positivity using various images, like ones that depicted the message, "You must accept your body or you will never be happy." Across a series of experiments, women exposed to these messages didn't feel any better about their body image. Instead, their body image only improved when the participants understood that people close to them, like their friends or their family, appreciated them for who they were rather than what they looked like. People were finding that nothing had changed in the way we felt about ourselves, and that saying anything about how we really feel was seen as negative and not accepted. So along came the body neutrality movement. It came into existence around 2015, gaining in popularity even more when a certified intuitive eater counselor and eating disorder specialist named Anne Poirier started to use the phrase body neutrality to help patients develop a healthy balance between diet and exercise. The thought behind this approach is that we are more than just a body. We are complex human beings with a variety of dimensions. We have emotions, we have thoughts, we have talents. Plus, a large portion of our physical attributes are outside of our control because they're determined for the most part by genetics. Your body contains all the vital organs that keep you alive and functioning. It also contains your mind, your heart, and spirit, aspects that drive your personality and self-identity, making you the person you are. Body neutrality promotes acceptance of your body as it is, encouraging you to recognize its abilities and non-physical characteristics over your appearance. So this movement aims to decentralize the body as an object by challenging the myth that the way that you look drives your worth. It also creates room to step back from body conversations in general. Since body neutrality isn't focused on appearance, it allows us to appreciate all the things that our body allows us to do, whether that involves engaging in our favorite physical activities, or even something as simple as making it possible to hug our loved ones. Body neutrality recognizes the value our physical being provides. In short, body neutrality says you may not always love your body, but you can still live happily and well. So this video that I'm about to show discusses Bethany Meyer's shift towards body neutrality. Within this video, there are discussions of eating disorders. So again, if you do not feel comfortable with this topic or may be triggered, please feel free to mute or take a break.
Hello, hello. All right, well, before we officially begin today, I want you all to know that I'm going to be sharing some stories that, to be completely honest, may be a little bit difficult to hear. If anyone in the room is recovering from an eating disorder or is unable to hear stories of starvation, purging, I would like to offer a trigger warning before we begin. I want you to know that if that's you, I understand and I love you and I see you and I fully respect your decision to leave the room at this time and to maybe watch this talk at a more appropriate time for you. All right. Well, now you're super excited about what I have to say today, huh? We're going to begin today the same way that I begin every session on the Become Project app. We're going to take a moment to simply check in with how we feel. On the screens here, you'll see a list of words that I give to my clients before and after every single session. And you can choose one of these words from the list, or you could pick a word that better describes how you're feeling. So like, for example, if I was going to pick a word right now, I'd be like really, really nervous, and that would be my word, and we're gonna take that word, hold on to it for a moment, feel it, understand what it means to you, and then let it go. I've found that taking time to check in with how you feel is a really good way to know if you're giving your body, your soul, your mind, your spirit, the things that it needs. And that's something that I learned the hard way. I have been working in fitness for about 12 years now. For 12 years, I've been teaching our bodies how to move, and I've been a lead instructor, a studio director, a teacher trainer. I've taught all over the country with full wait list, and now I've started my own brand. But for 8 of those 12 years, I was living with an eating disorder. It's like, here I was, right, the epitome of health, and I was secretly starving myself or hanging my head over a toilet in fear of food. I was living in Los Angeles at the time. I had a toxic boss at work and a toxic relationship at home. And I was at the height of my eating disorder, and every morning I would start my day with a sugary dessert, usually a Rice Krispie treat for whatever reason, and 3 shots of espresso, and that's all the fuel that I would give myself for the day. And one day I went into work, I taught my morning block of classes, and then I started on my task as the studio manager. And I started to feel hungry. And you have to understand at that time, the sensation of hunger was an absolutely terrifying feeling for me. And so I decided that I would walk to the market next door and I would buy some grapes. And when I got these grapes, it was like hunger and malnutrition took over, and I started eating handfuls of grapes very rapidly. And the entire time that I was eating them, I was promising myself, like, grapes aren't fattening, and this time you're gonna keep them down. And within 30 minutes, I was violently ill. I didn't have to make myself throw up this time because they came up on their own. And I will never forget holding onto the toilet and uncontrollably purging and crying at the fact that my body could no longer handle even the simplest of food. I was hungry and I was starving and I couldn't eat. And I think at this point, like, most people would maybe take a sick day and go home and rest and recover. But for me, I kept thinking my afternoon classes are starting and, like, the show must go on. So I peeled myself off the bathroom floor and I splashed some cold water on my face and I turned on a smile for my clients who were arriving. And then for the next 2 hours, I coached people on how to flatten their stomach and trim their thighs and prepare for bikini season, which was right around the corner. And I would love to stand here and tell you that I felt ashamed by my deceit, right? Like being a fitness instructor who couldn't stomach grapes, but I didn't. In fact, like, I thought that it was normal. In my mind, you don't go to a dentist with crooked teeth and you don't go to a fat fitness instructor, or so I thought. The theme of this conference is showing up, which I think is a really interesting choice of words because you can show up for someone in a supportive way, and you can also show someone up in a divisive way. And I realize now that I was trying to show someone up by being the skinniest person in the room, but I wasn't showing up for how I felt, right? Like, yes, I was showing up for how I looked, but I wasn't showing up for what was going on in here, what the true feeling was. And in turn, I was teaching that to my clients. You know, the whole idea of working out and fitness is kind of an interesting concept to me because clients will come and they'll be like, you know, I want abs like Jada and I want an ass like J-Lo and I want arms like Jen, but they don't get those things in one session. They don't get those things in 10 sessions. And if we're going to be real about it, they probably never get those things because at the end of the day, our bodies are uniquely ours, right? And they don't belong to Jada and they don't belong to J-Lo and they don't belong to Jen. And if you hired somebody to come and clean your house, and when they left, your house was still dirty, it's very unlikely that you would hire them again. So my thought is, like, why do we give fitness instructors all these chances? And I think the reason is because we, the instructor, evoke a feeling in people. The workout is surface, it's what's on the outside, but it's the experience that's internal. The feeling of strength. The feeling of accomplishment, the feeling of having someone who believes in you, the endorphin release, the ability to feel powerful even if it's only for a short amount of time. That is the reason why you come back for more. So now the question is, why do we stop exercising? And I think that that's directly correlated to the motive. So it's like, I feel so fat, I have to work out. And that motive came from a negative place of self-worth. And when it comes from a negative place, it creates a sense of dread. And if you dread something for long enough, I promise you won't want to do it. I'm really proud to stand here and say that about 4 years ago, my journey to a healthier self began. And I started by tossing my old rule book and throwing away my bathroom scale. And the first thing I did was I gave myself permission to eat dairy and meat and sugar and carbs and even gluten and all of these things, right? I ate. I stopped working out with the motive to lose weight, and I started working out with the motive to feel clear-headed and to feel centered and to feel empowered. And slowly, my mindset began to shift. I stopped trying to be body positive, and instead, I worked to become body neutral. Meaning some days we feel good about our body, some days we feel bad about our body, but all days we respect our body. So let me ask you this. Think about the last time you worked out. What was your motive? And did it come from a place of guilt? And then when was the last time that you looked at yourself in the mirror and you didn't see something that needs fixing? Body dysmorphia does not discriminate. It affects people of all sizes, all colors, all genders, all socioeconomic backgrounds. And it's important to know that we have been fed an idea for generations that says in order to be valued as people, we must look a certain way. And the saddest thing is that no matter how much we alter our appearance, we will always find something else that needs fixing, because that's how they design it. It's designed so that you cannot win. Together, we have the power to change that. We literally have the power to defy beauty standards by simply celebrating who we already are. At the end of each Become session, we do two things. First, we once again circle back to how we're feeling. And I want to say that sometimes the feeling may be the same, sometimes it may be different, sometimes it may be better, sometimes it may be worse. What's important is that it's honest. And then the second thing we do is, in an act of self-love, we give our shoulder a kiss. So right now, I would like for you to once again choose a word, whether it's one of the words that you see or a word of your own. Take it, hold on to it for a moment, and then all together, kiss your shoulder, and then let it go. Thank you so much.
So some benefits of the body neutrality movement. So the first one is we have less judgment. So judging our bodies is a very difficult thing to stop doing. We are constantly bombarded through the media with images of what ideal bodies look like. And as we talked about earlier, most people, often including the very people whose own bodies are on display, are digitally altered, feel that their own bodies don't meet the criteria of the ideal version. When you put in the work to stop judging your own body against that of others or of an ideal in your mind, it's natural that you will stop judging other people's bodies. One of the best elements of this is that as we move into a less judgmental mindset about our bodies, it becomes more natural to be less judgmental about ourselves and other people in all ways. Even for topics outside of bodies, when you practice body neutrality, you might find yourself criticizing both yourself and others less. We move into a less critical and judgmental state of mind. We begin to open ourselves up to the unique experiences of others. So rather than rushing to judgment about people, we instead can develop our own sense of empathy. So this could be as simple as not thinking of a fat person as having a body that isn't ideal or inherently being unhealthy, or listening to a person's story before passing judgment about them, or deciding what your opinion of them is based solely on their appearance. Having more empathy provides an opportunity to connect better and more deeply with other people. It allows us to be more vulnerable ourselves, because we have a stronger sense of how vulnerable others are. And it leads us to take actions from a kinder internal place versus that every person for themselves competitive mindset. Body neutrality can also help to lower our day-to-day stress. So there's no question that prolonged stress can have wildly unhelpful effects on our lives. When you feel stressed frequently about your body, it can turn into that prolonged stress. That's because an emotional issue around your body doesn't have an endpoint on its own, because our bodies are always with us. People can struggle for decades or even their entire lives over how their bodies look. When we decide to accept our bodies as they are, for what they are able to do, and stop focusing on how we should be different, our stress levels are likely to go down. This makes it easier to feel happy and relaxed. Additionally, with less stress, our bodies will produce less cortisol, resulting in more energy, better sleep, and better digestion. One key part of body neutrality involves eating what your body wants. In order to be able to do that, you have to get in touch with your body on a deeper level. So many people are used to choosing the foods they eat based on what they're told by influencers are the right foods to eat. And so eating intuitively can feel like a major life change. I suggest meeting with a nutritionist to discuss this further. When you've learned how to get in touch with your intuition in relation to your body and eating, you also have opened the door to listening to and hearing your intuition in general. This can be valuable for our mental health because it can lead to feeling more confident in our decision-making skills. If thinking about your body takes up any of your time, chances are that you aren't in the best mood when you're doing that. And from there, it may be tough to suddenly put yourself in a good mood, even if technically everything in your day or everything in the world is okay. The idea of our bodies being not perfect enough can easily ruin an entire day for some of us. With less judgment, less stress, and better intuition, we can boost our mood. The act of practicing body neutrality can lead to all of those, and from there, you may find yourself in a better mood more often than you could have imagined. When you spend time stressing about your body, it can easily lead to feeling anxious about it. You may feel like you need a change that's impossible to obtain, that things about your body should be different, but you're powerless over them, or that the world is viewing you critically. Any of these occurrences can lead to anxiety. Moving into a place of body neutrality is an anxiety reducer. If we spend less time in this painful mindset, we might be able to cut a large chunk of anxiety out of our lives. And when you have experienced less anxiety about your body, you may find yourself less anxious, period. So you might like body neutrality more because one, it's less pressure. If you're struggling with body image issues, being told you're supposed to feel confident and sexy in a bikini can simply add and create more anxiety. You end up feeling guilty for not loving your body enough. And body neutrality recognizes that overcoming body image issues can be hard. It doesn't put pressure on us to feel positive. Number two, it allows you to stop focusing on your appearance. Body positivity tackles the unrealistic beauty standards, but it doesn't tackle the underlying issue that our physical appearance shouldn't be our main source of self-esteem. Body neutrality focuses your attention away from your appearance. It's harder to feel ashamed about your body, how your body looks when you're busy appreciating everything it can do. And finally, it's more inclusive. As it doesn't focus on the way our bodies look, the body neutral movement is just inherently more inclusive for everyone. It's also less likely to be adopted by the fashion and beauty industries. So how can we practice body neutrality? So the first one is through self-talk. So feeling neutral about your body doesn't necessarily happen quickly or feel natural at first. Your best chance of easing into this mindset lies in how you communicate with yourself about your body. So try not to compare ourselves to others and trying to have that positive self-talk in our minds of my body's strong, my body gets me from point A to point B, my body allows me to run, my body allows me to dance, things like that. We can practice it through conversations with others. We are a society centered around a body ideal that is unattainable for basically everyone. So conversations with others about bodies are common, but we are slowly beginning to understand that no one benefits from these unrealistic standards. So it might seem harmless to point out to a very tall person that they're tall, or to a thin person that they're thin, but these words can be uncomfortable for them or even sometimes unsettling for the people receiving them. To practice body neutrality when we're around others, do not initiate discussions about bodies and attempt to steer the conversation away from that subject altogether. So you can give really any reason or no reason at all. And sometimes a simple explanation for why we're shifting the conversation is just talking about people's bodies is uncomfortable to me. So food and diet. So to eat in a manner that is neutral to our body, it makes the most sense to concentrate on what foods work best for your physical self and your taste buds. So choosing foods that you digest well, that you enjoy the flavors of, and that fuel you with energy is the most straightforward way to practice body neutrality in eating. So the concept of intuitive eating fits perfectly with body neutrality. There are many resources to get started with this, and little by little, you'll become more in tune with what works best for you. Body neutrality has no one diet that fits it, and you can choose to follow a specific eating plan. And if there's one that makes you feel great, or getting rid of diets entirely and relying on trusting your gut when deciding what to eat and when. Again, I'm no expert in nutrition. I'm just sharing information from a body neutrality perspective. So please talk to a nutritionist, doctor, or dietitian about this. Another way we can practice it is through exercise. So all of our bodies benefit from movement. However, the exercise industry unfortunately has a focus of losing weight, changing the shape of our body, burning fat, burning calories, building big muscles, and getting toned. We've seen it all. To practice body neutrality in relation to exercise, you're best served by not having a goal beyond moving your body because it feels good and is healthy to do so. So accepting your body at its current size and shape frees you from performing exercises you might not enjoy, but do anyway for the sake of burning calories or fat. Instead, to practice body neutrality and exercise, you should choose activities that you enjoy doing and then stop doing them once you are tired and sore. If you don't enjoy the standard workouts like lifting weights or running, I personally am not a good runner. I'm not good at it, I hate it. You could instead stick to activities that you like and that moves your bodies in ways that can give you the same energy, the same exercise. So let's say like gardening or walking your dog, dancing in the kitchen, hiking, bike riding, going for a walk with a friend with a coffee. The last way you can practice body neutrality is through social engagement. So social media is a complex thing. On the one hand, it can help us stay in touch with and up to date with our friends and loved ones. We can stay up to date with current events. We can find cool activities and places to eat in the city, and we can share our experiences. On the other hand, people only share parts of their lives they want others to know about. Like we talked about earlier, that highlight reel, and that can lead to an unrealistic idea about people's lives. So if you follow people on social media, whether they are people you know in person or not, seeing what they're up to should make you feel good and happy. If it doesn't, and makes you feel down on yourself, the body neutrality approach would be to stop following them. Because you may not want to offend a friend or a loved one, you can choose to mute them rather than unfollow them completely so that they aren't aware that you aren't seeing their posts and stories. You deserve to be inspired by the people whose lives you see, not feel worse about yourself. If you find yourself comparing your life to that of others, and especially if you feel like yours comes up short when you do, the best idea is to not see what that person shares. So some people have argued, why can't I have both? Some days body neutrality is a welcome relief from self-consciousness. Other days seeing a body positive Instagram post really lifts my confidence. So despite the issues with body positivity, there is still a worthwhile place in our lives if it helps us feel kinder towards our bodies and those like bumpy bits of us. Although body neutrality was designed to help overcome the challenges of the body positivity movement, there are benefits of developing a view of your body that encompasses both approaches. So this type of dual approach enables you to enjoy the benefits of each. So if you want to enjoy body positivity one day, it can help boost your mood while reducing negative thoughts. It also enables us to be happy with our bodies regardless of what society says about them, or in spite of negative messages we might have received during childhood. It's a good approach for when being positive doesn't feel, body neutrality is a good approach for when being positive doesn't feel genuine or is too big of a step to take. It removes the pressure of loving your body when you might not, only asking that you accept it as it is and appreciate it for what it can do. We are ever-changing human beings, which means that some days we will love our bodies, while on other days, self-love may seem like a huge task and a lot to ask. By incorporating both body positivity and body neutrality into our lives, we're able to select the approach most in line with how we're thinking that day. So if we choose to focus on body positivity, we can find things we love about our physical appearance and say them out loud. such as, I love my long legs. We can repeat positive affirmations throughout the day, like, I am happy with the way that I am. We can stop our mind when it starts to make comparisons between our bodies and someone else's, as there's no one perfect body type. Or we can watch online videos or go on social media to see things that are focused on promoting body positivity and self-love. If we're feeling more like we're having a body neutrality day, we can put post-it notes in our home and workspaces, reminding us to continue to work towards the acceptance of our body, flaws and all. We can recite statements about the value our body provides, such as, I appreciate my body for making it possible to complete my house and yard work today. And we can work on mindfulness, so noticing all the ways that our body serves us throughout the day. Honestly, just do what works best for you. So the first activity is going to help us in being more self-aware of what our assumptions, biases, and thoughts are towards individuals in larger bodies. So I'm going to ask a question. I'm going to give a couple of seconds to think about your answer. We're not sharing our answers, so don't worry about being right. We're just doing some internal self-awareness work today. So what are your initial uninhibited thoughts when you look at the picture on the left? What are your initial uninhibited thoughts when you look at the picture on the right? What are some ways that the woman on the right may receive more privileges in society than the woman on the left? And finally, I invite you to think about the narratives that you've believed or heard throughout your life in relation to people with larger bodies. Reflect on how that could lead to negative impacts for people with larger bodies and for our society as a whole. So let's practice some body neutrality. I'm going to give us 3 minutes to practice body neutrality. Within these 3 minutes, I want you to acknowledge the ways your body functions well by saying things like, my arms are strong, or my legs can ride a bike for an hour, or my brain thinks really quickly. Acknowledge the ways your body doesn't work well for you and remove the emotional charge from those things by being matter of fact. Like for myself, my knees aren't very strong. And then finally, I want you to think of self-love activities to use for the future. We would perform those self-love activities only when it actually feels uplifting and not when it feels like effort or untrue at the time. So I'm going to give us 3 minutes just to work through those.
Woke up this morning to somebody in a video talking about something I posted in a video. If it wasn't me, then would you even get offended? Or is it just because I'm black and heavy? Y'all don't hear me though. I've been the same since I've been dropping slow on Bissonnet. Call up anybody I know and they will tell you that fame is pretty new, but I've been used to people judging me. That's why I move the way I move and why I'm so in love with me. I'm used to feeling hollow. So I thought that I'd let you know. In case nobody told you today, you're special. In case nobody made you believe you're special. Well, I will always love you the same. You're special. I'm so glad that you're still with us. Broken, but damn, you're still perfect. Special. Could you imagine a world where everybody's the same and you could cancel a girl cause she just wanted to change? How could you throw stones if you ain't been through a pain? That's why we feel so alone. That's why we feel so ashamed.
So I'll share what I wrote down. I wrote one for each thing, but something that works well is that my body and my brain helped me through this presentation, even though I was quite nervous. Things that don't work well, my body doesn't allow for me to eat ice cream, which is a huge bummer because I love ice cream. And then self-love activity that I'm going to use in the future is I love doing face masks. I feel like it's a very typical self-care, self-love activity, but it just feels nice just to give myself a little bit of love every now and then. I feel like I would be doing disservice if I didn't quickly touch on the health at every size approach. It's an approach to public health that seeks to de-emphasize weight loss as a health goal and reduce stigma towards people who are overweight or obese. Proponents argue that traditional interventions focused on weight loss, such as dieting, do not reliably produce positive health outcomes. Like we noted before, 90% of diets fail. And that health is a result of lifestyle behaviors that can be performed independently of body weight. This movement also does not neglect to recognize the fact that obesity is a health concern. So its main principles are weight inclusivity, health enhancement, eating for well-being, respectful care of all individuals, and a life-enhancing movement. So I have a couple of resources up here for you to take with you after this to enhance your learning. So the first is a couple of websites. So Beyond Body Image is a website filled with resources and information on body neutrality. And then More Than a Body centers on the truth that positive body image isn't believing your body looks good, it's knowing your body is good, regardless of how it looks. A couple of podcasts that might be helpful as well is the Papaya podcast, How to Love Your Body, and Breaking Body Biases. They all combat diet culture, promote body acceptance, and discuss ways to improve body image. A few books that might be helpful is Health at Every Size by Lindo Bacon and The Body is Not an Apology by Sonia Renee Taylor. And then if you want to curate your Instagram feed to include more body neutral and positive content, some Instagram pages that might be helpful are The Bird's Papaya and I Weigh. So thank you all for spending your evening with me. I hope you leave this talk with a greater appreciation for your body, some resources to support the path towards body neutrality, and tools that will help you shift the narrative in our world today. I will end this talk with a body neutral affirmation. My worth and lovability do not depend on my looks. I'm worthy for a million other reasons. Thank you.
Oh, thank you so much, Nicole. That was an incredible presentation. I really learned a lot and beautifully presented. Thank you so much. To those of you who have to leave, we'll stick around in case someone has a question. But I just want to thank you again for spending some of your evening with us. Remind you that you are always welcome to join us. So hopefully we'll see you at an upcoming talk. So have a nice evening.